Our fourth speaker is Susan Poser. Susan is presenting on career management. Susan Poser brings more than 25 years of experience in a variety of roles from marketing, finance, operations, and program management. In her current role as Senior Director for the Office of the Chief Executive Officer at Oracle, Susan is responsible for special projects related to Oracle's sales strategy and operations. Some of the projects include Millennial Attraction and Retention, Inside Sales Maturity Assessment, and transforming the way Oracle's global solution engineering organizations work today with the goal of improving scale, consistency, and impact while increasing employee engagement. In addition, Susan is the co-lead for Oracle's Women's Leadership Initiative in San Diego, where she is responsible for developing partnerships and programs to help the Oracle women in San Diego succeed. Susan is also the national co-lead for Oracle's Professional Asian Leaders, which focuses on developing the skills to promote more Asians into leadership roles at Oracle. In her free time, Susan mentors through the Aztec Mentor Program, spends time with her son, who is pursuing an environmental geoscience degree at SDSU, and enjoys traveling and baking. Susan graduated from SDSU in 1986 with a Bachelor's of Science in both business and journalism, and in 1989 with an MBA in finance. Please welcome Susan to the stage.
Hi. As the voice of God said, I'm Susan Poser, and that's what we call it at Oracle. I'm an Aztec alumni, Aztec mom, and Aztec mentor. And I'm excited today to be talking to you about career management. How many of you, when you think of career management, you think J-O-B, job? Is that what you guys think of? That's what I think of. But when I think J-O-B, I'm thinking joy, opportunity, and brand. So I'll tell you a little bit about that, but first let me tell you a little bit about myself. I know the voice of God told you about it a little bit, but I graduated from San Diego State with 2 undergraduates, one in business with an emphasis in marketing, and another in journalism with an emphasis in advertising. Then I continued on and got my MBA in finance. When I was working on my MBA in finance, I had an opportunity to take an internship at Unisys in their finance and accounting department. Immediately upon graduation, they offered me a job, and I continued in finance and accounting, and that was the start of my career. So now let me go back to J-O-B, joy, opportunity, and brand, and share with you how it helped shape my career in hopes that maybe some of this will help you as well. So first, joy. Find joy in what you do. I don't mean like, every day you have to be like, yes, I love my job, because I don't know how many of us, I'm not that crazy, but find joy in what you do. There's always something that you can find joy in, because nobody wants to work with like the negative Nancy or the negative Ned that just grumbles around. I mean, they're just toxic, right? So find joy, whether it's that you've got flexible work hours, or that you get to work from home, or that you love the people that you work with, or you love the special projects that you're working on, right? Find the things that make you excited and bring you joy about the job that you're working on. After working in finance and accounting for 8 years, I actually no longer found joy in what I was doing. What I loved with finance and accounting, I was learning a lot of new things. And after 8 years, I was no longer learning a whole lot. While I still loved the people that I worked with, I was looking for something else. I really wanted to go to marketing. That was what my undergrad was. That's really what I wanted to do. And so I was really fortunate. While I was in finance, I had volunteered to build a data warehouse to help solve some of our inventory problems. And Unisys introduced a data warehousing product, and they were looking for marketing people that knew data warehousing. So I put together my resume. I put in, that I was building a data warehouse. I put everything I could about marketing. I had volunteered with United Way and had done some marketing with that. I worked here at Associated Students at Aztec Center here in the marketing department. I put everything I could about marketing, and I got the job, and that helped pivot my career into marketing. So when you're not finding joy anymore, then it's time to start looking for opportunities. So let's talk about opportunities. When I talk about opportunities, I'm not saying you need to go look for a new job. I'm saying look for opportunities to fill some of the gaps or the skills that you don't have that you want to put on your resume. So when I was in Unisys, in finance, I wanted to still keep up my marketing skills. So I volunteered to run our United Way campaign. And that gave me a lot of opportunity to continue to build my marketing expertise. At Oracle, when I started Oracle as in a pre-sales function, and then I did marketing. And then I moved into operations, and I was no longer interacting with customers. And I wanted to still be able to interact with people outside of Oracle. And so I volunteered to run our employee resource group for Asians, as well as our local women's leadership group. And both of those have given me opportunities to partner with outside organizations and still interact with customers and prospects. So find the opportunities that are going to give you the skills to help you keep those, develop the skills that you want and the experiences that you want, even though it may not necessarily be related to your job. The opportunities are everywhere, whether it's training that you want to take, whether it's, a volunteer project. You just need to look for opportunities. They're everywhere. And leverage your mentors. I've never had like a formal mentor. What I have is what I would consider more of a personal board of advisors, people that some of my peers, people that used to be my bosses, just different people, that I've met through different walks in life that I can kind of call on, and they've helped me. They've reviewed my resume, they've given me feedback, they've helped me spot gaps in my resume that I might be able to, get some experiences and help me find, where I might be able to get those experiences. So leverage mentors. I mentor here at San Diego State, as well as I've got interns that I've mentored and some of my employees. So leverage your mentors to help you find those opportunities, identify where you might have gaps in your resume. Opportunities are everywhere. And then last, brand. Most people think of brands as products or companies that have brands, right? So when you think of Nordstrom, right, you think of customer service. When you think of Amazon, you think, whatever you want, when you want it, you get it the next day right at your fingertips, right? Everybody has a brand. What do you want to be known for? And if you don't create your brand, it'll be created for you. When I was at Unisys starting my career, I ran the United Way campaign, and then I also volunteered to, organize, some retirement lunches and maybe baby showers. And then all of a sudden, I became branded as the social butterfly. Every time there was people coming in from out of town, Susan, please organize a happy hour. Anytime there was a baby shower, Susan, please organize. And it was fine. I enjoyed organizing it, and that was fine. But as I've evolved in my career, I've kind of moved away from being the social butterfly. And what I found is when once you figure out what your brand is, use that when you introduce yourself. You don't say, hi, my brand is, but because that would sound a bit weird. But what you could do, what I do, is instead of saying, hi, my name's Susan Poser, and I'm with Strategy and Operations, because that really doesn't tell people a whole lot. I say, hi, I'm Susan Poser, and what I do is I work with diverse groups of people to solve one of our critical business problems. And right now, I'm working with our Global Solution Engineering organization to help them transform the way they work to accelerate Oracle's cloud business. So that helps them understand, like, oh, okay, so if I have a problem in terms of, getting people together to work together, she might be somebody I could call on. So that just happened last year. Larry Ellison, Oracle's founder, his chief of staff called on me because she was working on a global employee summit, and she needed help with how do we change the way our employees tell the Oracle story. And she asked me to come and help her with that special project. So come up with, figure out what the brand is that you want. And it's going to be constantly evolving as you, continue with your career. And like I said, I started out as a social butterfly, and it changed. But protect your brand, build your brand, and know what you want to be known for. So to summarize, career management, it is your job. It's nobody else's job, right? It's not your boss's job. It's not your parents' job. It's actually your job. And what I found is if I focus on the joy, the opportunity, and the brand, what brings me joy, what are the opportunities that I need to focus on, and what is the brand that I want to be known for? That's helped me shape my career. Hopefully it'll help you too. Thank you.